What's up, Black Love fam and first-time fam? We're getting ready to go man-to-man here on the Black Love Podcast Network. I'm David Wazicki, General Manager of Black Love, and I know you're going to love who I'm talking to today. But first, I have to give a shout out to Target. They've been partnering with HBCUs to support the next generation of Black talent. And one of the ways they're teaming up with HBCUs is through Target's HBCU Design Challenge, where HBCU students submit designs to be included in their Black History Month collection. And you know their Black History Month collection is fire. You see it everywhere, all month long in February. You can't miss it. All the designs are dope. So I'm really looking forward to that HBCU flavor that they're going to add into the mix. Winners of the Design Challenge get access to networking opportunities, mentoring, and more. So we got to support this. It's truly an outstanding opportunity for up-and-coming Black talent. So please make sure you check back during Black History Month to see the latest winners at your local Target. I know I'm going to check mine out. Shout out Target T1307 right here in LA. You know I'm going to be there Feb 1 checking it out and see what's going to be featured in their 2022 Black History Month collection. Celebrate your legacy. Invest in the future. Together, we are Black Beyond Measure. Visit target.com/Black Beyond Measure to learn more. All right. Today, I am very fortunate to have the chance of someone who's been in the music industry for over 3 decades. He's a titan in the industry. He's been an established music executive, entrepreneur, real estate investor, and now author. He's one of the most successful record execs in the music industry, and I verified it, so it's all facts. And he's been pivotal in the sound and culture of music today. It is the one and only Benny Pough. Benny, what's up, my brother?
What's happening? How are you, David? I think what's quite amazing about your intro is that, forget the blue check. I got a man-to-man background check.
Oh, there you go.
I don't know what color that is. Yeah, verified by man-to-man. That's amazing. Thank you. Appreciate it. The interview's over, bro.
Yeah, that's it. And you gave me a new idea. I'm going to have to get that man-to-man verified, maybe red check. Maybe we'll do a red check.
Yeah.
So before we jump into all the things, because there's so much to unpack here, and I love your background, and I'm always intrigued by folks who don't follow this linear path, especially to the level of success you've seen. But because it is man-to-man, because we talk from a wellness perspective, which you're speaking to more and more these days, one word I always like to kick this conversation off with is understanding, what does the word masculinity mean to you?
That's amazing.
And there's no wrong answer.
Oh, there can't be, right? It's my answer.
It's your answer.
Right. So masculinity growing up was definitely defined by presence, strength, hardness. Watching my father, my grandfathers, my uncles, these were men that never showed emotion, from losing kin to parents, siblings. Still have never seen my father cry in any circumstances given. So
wow.
At that stage, as a youth, the only thing I saw was just unrelenting hardness. As I've grown and realized what it really takes to be a man, which is part of masculine, I appreciate the fact that vulnerability comes in that as well. So part of me growing in my strength is also letting people know how I feel, how I've grown, my weaknesses. And that's what makes me stronger. In turn, helps others to understand how to grow as well. So that's how I would define it.
I love that, and I'll say no two answers have ever been the same. And I love them all. And this one, it resonates, especially. So I was born and raised in New York City. I know yourself, you went to St. John's. You currently live in the tri-state area in Jersey, if I'm not mistaken.
Correct.
Where did you grow up seeing all of this different, or I'd say just older version of masculinity?
So my life I'm born and raised in White Plains, New York. Actually, Valhalla, maybe it didn't come up in most people's background search, but
No, it
now
didn't.
that I put it out there, yeah. Now that I put it out there, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a small town outside of White Plains, 3 miles away.
Okay.
Which White Plains is the suburbs of Manhattan.
Right.
But
Right.
what defined me and helped create my core was we spent every summer in Orangeburg, South Carolina. My parents would send us down, and it was really interesting that at the end of the school year, when school was over, whether school ended on a Monday, we left that Friday to go down south. If school ended on a Friday, we drove that night to go down south, because that gave my parents the opportunity to double up on work and, create extra income for themselves and give us, a diverse perspective of the world and life, other than just being in the city. So I'm not only just, I look at myself as I'm a city Southern kind of person. So I relate in both worlds. And growing up in the South, or spending as much time as I have in the South, there are things that are very similar and things that are very juxtaposed for African Americans, and our exposure and how we process and adapt and move forward in this journey that we have.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And thanks for sharing that. So, from that, I do want to dig into how that transitioned essentially into the career that we know you as and know you for. But there's one little tidbit I came across. So I want to understand how that upbringing brought you into this. So even before the music thing, you wanted to go into comedy?
Absolutely, man.
Huh.
And it's
Talk to me.
Yeah. So music was secondary. Comedy was primary, and my toe in as an adult getting into the arts. When I was in school, probably like most kids, played instruments, sucked at that. I did tap. I'm one of the very few, people that I know of. I did tap in elementary, which was, it was fun, but it was different, and that wasn't perceived as masculine.
No, right? I don't think it would have been
at all. But it was very rewarding, and it was different and unique. So I was never afraid of pushing myself to things I enjoyed, regardless how people feel or their perception or view of what I'm doing. It's more important for me to feel accomplished in what I want to expose myself to in this life. But while I was at St. John's, it was one of multiple jobs that I had. I had 4 jobs during college, and one of them was doing stand-up, where we made a whopping $25 after each performance. So needless to say, when people decide to become artists, it is something you have to commit to, because pursuing your dream, the dream has to be forward, because money, unless you are overnight sensation, one-hit wonder, doesn't come that fast. So the passion and the love has to be a part of the quest. But while I was in St. John's, I toured the tri-state and doing shows, and that, in essence, prepared me and opened me for the door when asked to do a show with the Cellar on 96 in Amsterdam in New York by the regional director of promotion for Motown Records. That's when this whole thing started.
Wow. Amazing.
So it was random, but it was purpose.
Yeah, I was going to say, I mean, sometimes there's, some people call it synchronicities. Some people, call it divine timing. But I'm clearly starting comedy to be at the Comedy Cellar on Amsterdam in 96 got you into this direction here, into music. And then from there, I mean, you basically, it's what it sounds like is you started from intern to exec, like that, that tried and true old tale of, starting from the bottom. Now we're here type of scenario.
That's right. Absolutely.
And now I want to give some people, some background onto what you really touched, so they really understand the breadth of what you've done. So you start at Motown, you go to Arista, MCA, and by the way, I mean, if you don't like music, well, that's another conversation for another time. Arista, MCA, Def Jam, Epic, Rock Nation. From all of that, you can only imagine the type of artists you've touched. And again, for me, man to man verifying you, especially Rihanna, Jay-Z, Kanye West, etc. And your last stint in working for other labels was at Rock Nation, where I think, is this number right? You helped release 18 albums in 1 year.
Mm-hmm. Yes, sir. 18
Wow.
Independent and major releases for an independent label. We were super excited about that. And just to roll back a little bit,
Sure.
started my career at Motown Records as you stated, as an intern, which I had no idea upon graduation, because from where we're from, the next step, no one really tells you about it. It's like, you go to high school to get a job or go to the service or,
Yeah.
go to college. But ultimately, there's no blueprint post that, right? You're just expected to achieve whatever's for you.
Right.
So when the opportunity came at the end of the show, when I was being paid to be an intern, I had no idea what an internship was. So I did what most people probably would do, is say, yeah, I'll take it.
I'll do it. Yeah.
So I went down to Motown dressed in my 3-piece suit and anti-shade case and wingtips, because prior, one of the other jobs that I always partaked in was, I was a salesman by nature and also by craft and profession. So
Sure.
I worked for Citibank. I sold cutlery door to door. I did all of the things to tighten and hone my skills as a salesperson, which made comedy, a second instant for me to exactly jump into. But once I got to Motown, I realized when I showed up that people looked at me like I was the FBI or, some kind of like door-to-door salesman, no pun intended, right?
Yeah.
Because you have to think of what the music business is probably the modern day tech-esque attitude, right? It's
right.
It's very creative, it's very loose.
Yeah.
And here I come in, looking, I don't know, bananas. So
just very anti-music,
just radical. Like the guy that's coming to shut the label down.
Yeah.
Right? Literally and figuratively. But I learned in that time period, which was very valuable for me, the education, the experience of starting my career at let's say a 95% African American business, which Motown was. And that gave me a different experience of working with my own in something that was very new. Doesn't mean that you can't have valuable experiences working with different genders or religions or however. But for me, I'd never been in a soul business that was so predominantly African American. And it was a great experience because it was more than just a job. It was family. And, everyone was about, each one teach one, raise one up. And once I got the opportunity inside, the young lady who brought me in had me processing her travel and expenses. Had no idea what that was either.
Sure.
What she had me do was correlate between the expenditures and, the receivables and all of that, and put it together and put this report, and then a check would come back. And after doing this for a couple of weeks, not knowing actually what T&E was, I said to her very sheepishly, "You know what? I don't feel comfortable looking at your paycheck coming in weekly." And she said, "What are you talking about, baby?" I said, "The check that I'm with these expenses and things, I just don't feel comfortable knowing what you make." She said, "Oh, you're so cute." No. What this is, the company pays for my expenses. I was like, "What?" She's like, "Yeah, my flights, my hotel, my car note, my insurance, my gas. Those dinners we go out with clients and, the drinking that you're doing, they pay for all of that." And that's when the light bulb went off and I said, "You know what? I want to do that." and that's how I got in emotionally into the business and fell in love with the business of music, because that prompted me to learn much more about this untraditional product that was being exposed, and obviously touching artists and having the ability to change lives instantaneously and expose them to the marketplace and make somebody one day who's relatively a nobody in popularity perspective to
Sure, sure.
becoming somebody, opened my eyes up to a whole different way of appreciating the arts and the business of music.
Amazing. And so going through this process, going through these decades, I mean, again, you have had these A-list rosters of talent and you're putting out these hits. I mean, what was the pressure like for you at some point as your star was rising, as you were working with these bigger and bigger artists? What was the pressure like for you? Was there any pressure? How did, like, emotionally and mentally, how were you managing this as you're growing, as you're expanding, and your talent roster is as well?
So label to label, opportunity to opportunity has its own different subset of expectation and experience and pressure. For me, navigating through all of it is always being present in the work, right? It wasn't about the applause and the ceremonies of success as it was for me to actually make sure that the T's and the I's were always crossed. And that was most important. Let other people celebrate, make sure you do the work, and then you'll always be celebrating, was my concept. And ideally in doing so was about strategy, planning, and teamwork. Obviously in any business, we looked at the music business, and obviously the departments that I've ran is, it was always team ball. It wasn't about, no one person can make an artist successful. Even the artist just can't make he or she successful without a team.
Sure.
So not having valuable players and having people that can, score under pressure will minimize the opportunity for success. So what I learned early on was, really, we've heard this over and over again. It's not, there's no I in team, and that's, it's a true statement. And ultimately, what I owe any success that people may perceive me to have is that I've been able to establish and put together some of the best teams, recognize some really incredible talent, put it all together, and the stars and the moon align, and we've had success.
Amazing. I mean, easier said than done. I've too been in that situation. I've been fortunate, but your track record precedes itself. All right. Before I get into this next question, I've got to mention something. Target is partnering with HBCUs to support the next generation of Black talent. One of the ways they're teaming up with HBCUs is through their HBCU Design Challenge, where HBCU students submit designs to be included in Target's Black History Month collection. I think that's pretty dope. I think the Black History Month collections are pretty dope. Not only are they on full display every single year, but HBCU students are going to bring it. So I'm excited to see what's coming out in 2022. So fam, check back during Black History Month to see the latest winners' designs that will be featured in Target's 2022 Black History Month collection. Celebrate your legacy, invest in the future. Together, we are Black Beyond Measure. Visit target.com/Black Beyond Measure to learn more. Okay, let's get back into it. So we get through all of this success. We, at the top of your game, and I think you may know where I'm about to lead next. In 2014, so I guess 7 or so years ago, an event happens that I'm sure for anybody changes their life. For you, apparently for the better, but I want to hear it firsthand. You get into this car accident, and it sounded like a very, very serious one. What happens when you experience something like that, where, again, back to mental health and just your mental state? How are you feeling, during this period of time? you get all these accolades, and for you, you've already said it's not about, I don't need the shiny trophies and awards and all of that. You know where the true success lies. As a side note, which is a beautiful thing to experience and know early on in your life, whereas a lot of people realize that a lot later. But back to this scenario, so this tragedy strikes. How are you feeling? What's going through your head?
So August 31st, 2014, I had a near-death car accident. And just to roll back the tape somewhat to get you in the total reference of the question that you asked.
Sure.
I'm at a point in my career, I'm at Epic Records, going on maybe 4 years at the job. And we're in a magnificent stride. Future's on fire, brought him in. Yo Gotti is starting to turn up from his independent days, and now he's a major label success. Signed Cash Out. Cash Out is doing the cashing out, riding around with that Nina, and DJ Khaled is getting into play, Warman, Travis Scott. Khaled, all of this is starting to happen, right? And at the end, before that, nearly a month prior, we signed Bobby Shmurda, and all of that is starting to happen.
Wow.
So, from a professional standpoint, it's the rebirth of, another peak.
I was just going to say,
my life on the ascension aspect of what has happened in the past is now in the future and current at that state.
Sure.
A friend of mine calls me for a barbecue and asked me if I would come. I said yes. You know how you grab the phone sometimes and it's a fast call and you look at it and I was somewhere probably between, reflecting now, would have probably been a soft no or a soft maybe or a hard no had I known at that point. Because once I commit or I give my word or I say I'm going to do something, then it doesn't matter. Even if I ultimately lose, because I never want to break my word to anyone or anything for a decision that I committed to. So needless to say, fast forward, we get to his house, my wife and I, and my daughter, and we're sitting having a conversation, and he and I, we peel off and we go to sit on the deck and have dialogue about some things that are happening in his life, things that are happening in my life. And there's this whole misty rain that's taking place, process. And needless to say, it was a heavy moment that we were sharing. So whether he said or I said, he had just purchased a new 550 Benz. Let's take a ride. Let's alleviate this moment. So we jump in the car, backside of the driveway. The ladies and the kids come out. We drive down the driveway, open the gate, and he turns right on a 2-lane roadway. And as he turns, I grab my phone, and I hear a thump, bam, the car jets off. So now I look at the odometer because I'm saying to myself, wait a minute, we're not kids anymore.
Yeah.
Why are you showboating? Yeah. So I turn my head counterclockwise and look at the odometer. And the odometer is moving at about 75 miles an hour.
Wow.
I turn my full head, and his foot is on the accelerator. And he's out. So from where we started to impact is a half a mile, and the car was being driven without a driver in excess of 75 miles an hour. So needless to say, I've done what I've always been trained and disciplined to do from my mother from a young age, is speak to God.
Sure.
And the first thing I say is, Lord, who's going to take care of, my family? Because I'd seen my sister, I've seen my father, my mother, my wife and my daughter literally just left them. Who's going to take care of them? Then the second thing, it comes, and death does happen in slow motion. I start speaking to God and I said, Lord, I guess I'm going to see you soon, because at this point, I'm accepting, my mortality at this point. Like, the end is near.
Yeah.
And the third thing, I get angry with God. Now, who am I to be angry with God? But I'm angry because had I known I was going to die today. I wouldn't have went to the barbecue, right?
Right.
Ultimately, right? Like I would have, forget my word. I can't make it. It's either go back on my word or die today, right?
Yeah.
There's an easy choice to make, right? Live, right? So the car starts to veer off the road. We start hitting trees and bushes. And as this is happening, I'm thinking about, who's going to marry my daughters, who's going to pour wisdom into my son, who's going to take care of my mom, who has Alzheimer's, right? Who's going to be there for the moments, birthdays and celebrations in my place that I will no longer be there for. And we hit something in the road that sent us off path and directly into an oak. And we hit this tree in high speeds, and I sustained, level 3 concussion, L304 vertebrae fracture, bulging disc in my back, bled half the blood out of my body, lacerated liver, and we hit the tree so hard that it severed 2 feet of my small intestine.
Wow.
But what's most important out of all of this was at that very moment, God gave me a book, and the book is called On Impact. On Impact is literally and figuratively how my life has changed. And it takes you, impact is an acronym. It stands for intuition, mastery, pivot, authenticity, connections, and teamwork. And it takes the reader through my life at 11 years old to this point, right? Being on Man to Man, and gives the reader an understanding of, if Benny can do it, I can do it too. And at the end of each chapter is a hit list of things that you can apply to your life on a daily perspective that'll help you move forward through this journey of life.
So first, I'm going to take a breather because one, I feel like I just view this. Thank you for sharing it.
Right.
Because it's sensitive in nature. I never like to pry into somebody's personal experiences. So one, I appreciate you being very vulnerable and sharing that story as vividly as you did, and that's why I felt like I've just been viewing this before my eyes, or my mind's eyes. Obviously, that was the impetus for the book, which you authored recently and coming soon.
2022.
2022. Okay.
But you can pre-order it now on my website, bennypough.com.
I was gonna say. We'll make sure to have that in the show notes, and I'll run it back one more time. But you experienced this. You experienced near death, and you go through all of the things you just mentioned. I'm sure your level of gratitude from that point on has been through the roof. Number one. And
it's changed my life.
Yeah.
It's changed my life from, so I look at my life as pre-accident and post. Pre-accident, Benny was busy, Benny was grinding, Benny was about, the celebration and, making sure people were happy and every other aspect. Post-Benny is very specific on making sure that, my spirituality is being nurtured at all times, never harboring any ill will, to the best of my ability, and always making sure that I can give as much as I can. And what's been important for me in this process of my life is making sure that people get, an opportunity for whatever I've learned to pass that on. And maybe I wasn't sharing as much in the past as I am now, but that is a commitment from me to all I come in contact.
I love that. And definitely appreciate it. Again, I think, it's unfortunate sometimes we experience these things for certain realizations, but I also, whether this tragic in nature or not, I think it also leads us to something bigger that goes beyond it, and that's on the other side of it. And to your point, you just mentioned you now see your life in 2 parts and in 2 phases, and I truly believe, now there's this greater calling essentially if you will, that that you're being led to or called into, and it begins with this memoir that comes out next year. And I feel like it probably traverses into what you're doing at Diverse Media. Are you able to speak about Diverse Media a little bit?
Absolutely. Diverse Media is a full-fledged label as well as distribution company for artists who want an opportunity to maintain their masters and put their music out, being in total control of their music, their content, and their
Hmm.
vision. So what I've done is put together an as a vehicle for artists that I sign directly to me, which is the traditional model of record company, as
Right.
well as artists that who want to maintain all of their rights but need services. It's difficult when you get in the music game and you have no idea or direction on how to. Some artists don't even know how to get into a studio. Some
Sure.
artists don't know how to, promote themselves. Some artists don't know how to get on radio. Some artists don't know how to get a publicist. And in essence, with that, I can now go into my Rolodex and be able to help people along the way in this process. And that's what Diverse does: is give everyone an opportunity who are interested in following their dreams to be a part of that.
And do you feel like you would have still started your own company in music in this way had it not been for the accident? Do you think you still would have been at Rock Nation or another big label today had it not been for that?
Absolutely not. And that was the purpose of the accident
Mm,
for me, was
yeah.
to change my life.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
it set me on a whole new path, a whole new direction, a whole new course. And unfortunately, there might have been signals along the way that God had gave me. I was running through stop signs and just cruising and never saw him. So he said,
Sure.
okay.
Sure.
Oh,
All
you don't
right.
see the big red sign, right? You don't see
Yeah.
it? Oh, you don't want to stop, right? I got something for you.
Yeah.
This big
Yeah.
ass oak tree gonna get your attention, right?
Yeah.
And
Take
that's
that.
exactly what happened. Yo, take that, right?
Take that. Take that.
Yeah.
Man, I mean, it's wild. I look and now with the book, so now Diverse Media, I know I pronounce it as diverse, but I know it's a play on words,
Mhm.
Diverse Media.
That's
Um
right.
you have the book. And beyond that, are there other things you're doing now? Are you public speaking now? Are you speaking to this incident? Are you speaking to the happenings of Life Part 2, Phase 2 for Benny Pough as a result?
Absolutely. So I do mentoring. I have, you know, a very active mentee organization, people that, I give one-on-one conversations and dialogue with and to. Also doing some speaking, which I look to over the next months and years to do a lot more of. So I'm super excited about that. And, I'm just creating, my mantra and getting prepared for this book to come, because I think it's going to be an amazing addition for me in finding and moving myself forward. So spending a lot of time, finally finished, the manuscript to the
Yeah.
level of where I wanted to be. I never knew, dealing with artists before, right, how difficult it is to release a song, like finish a song, or, I'm sure with a writer, finish a book.
Yeah.
But when you were done, there's no pulling it back once it goes public. So that's why people stayed with it so
Yeah.
long, to the
Yeah.
level that they see that's necessary to always represent them. So I'm very excited about the book coming out, and put a lot of work into it, and looking at all that's going to come once it's released into the space. So I'm super super excited.
Yeah, I mean, I'm excited to see it, and I'm excited to see the fruits of your labor and what's going to come of that, because I think the story's powerful. Your story's powerful, excuse me, and I look. I feel there's a lot to still unpack. I feel like we're just scratching the surface here. One other aspect of it that I do want to ask you about is,
Mhm.
has that changed how you approach your days typically?
Absolutely. The accident has changed my entire being, my entire life. As I stated earlier, there was the pre and the post. And in the post, it's hard trying to be the best you. It's very difficult. It's easy it's a lot of all these positivity quotes that go out. Everybody is like, yo, a motivator and life
Yeah.
coaching.
Right,
Everybody
right.
does that now, right?
Yeah, yeah.
But it's a business. There's always different level of people in any aspect of business, and I hope you find qualified people to help support you along the way. And especially, in this wellness space that you're talking about, it's equally as advantageous and diligent to put the time in to find people who can really help you, not just talk to you.
Right.
So ideally for me, it's been, a very interesting journey on being at this point.
And what would you say in terms of a typical day in the life of Benny Pough? Are there any routines? Are there any rituals that you do on a daily basis for mind, for body, for soul, for one of them or all three of them in terms of your day to day approach?
Absolutely. I start my day maybe at 6 a.m. in the morning, anywhere between 6 and 6:30. I do my stretching before I get out of bed because of the back. So I stretch a little bit. It's like, I never realized I had a German Shepherd at one point, and pet owners know, like, when dogs wake up, they like stretch.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
That's the
Yeah.
first thing they do. And they stretch
Big
all
stretch.
day, every
Yeah.
day, right?
Yeah.
Big stretch.
Yeah.
I never used to do big stretches until I got injured. And I realized the value of, like, before you think about moving, make sure that you get everything fluid and open. So that's been helpful for me in proceeding. So I start my day with a big stretch, right? And
Yeah.
in bed. And then I get up and I do my prayer. I sit and get the quiet time of understanding and thinking about the day that's before me, and thankful for the opportunity to be present. And I know what that's like, being in a coma for 4 days when
Mm.
time is just void and vacant. When you come out of it, you're like, what?
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
thankful for that now. I'm thankful for, like, when your eyes open, that anything could have happened at that point. So
Right.
when you actually wake, you are present and you're open to receive and be a part of the day that you're in. Yesterday has passed and tomorrow hasn't come. So you're very, very present in the moment, and realizing that this is a small piece for what's next for me, is value in how I open and perceive, with my day. And then after that, I go in, probably like most people, I get into all of blogs and things that I follow to get, caught up on information, books, I may get a chapter or two in on whatever's current that I'm reading, and just trying to stay active with that. I do a lot of podcast listening. So, I make sure that, I get on that. Might tap in before the 9 o'clock hour in the local radio station, which for me in New York is, oh, I'm gonna make somebody mad, but I listen to is 105.1, right? The Breakfast Club. I think they're just
Yeah.
amazing. Like, they're really, really talented people. So, shout out to them for the most part. And then after that, I have the 3 different companies that I have. So I have my day broken out on being able to give time to each of the companies to keep moving them forward, between music, my real estate company, and my book. And then I break my fast about noon. So
Oh,
that's my
wow.
first meal during the day.
Okay.
I do intermittent fasting. It's really good for the body.
Yeah.
Keeps you active.
Absolutely.
Maintains, that adult thing around your waist,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
Right. You keep
Yeah.
all of that. Those little that's how you
Yeah.
keep. We men got cheat sheets too now.
Oh,
right?
we got the cheat
We
sheets,
got it. We
cheat
got the little
codes.
cheat sheets. Yeah, cheat
That's why-
codes. Oh, we do that. Yeah, a lot of
That's why we
water. Hit all
Yeah.
of that. Yes.
Yeah.
And get back into my work, and I probably wrap up my day between 5 and 6, and I do my callbacks Because what I choose not to do is during the course of my day is get very intense in returning emails or returning phone calls, because I want to make sure that I'm focused on one of the objectives that I need to accomplish. And people steal your time. Obviously, I read emails for things that need an immediate response, not
Sure.
things that are going to require, multiple responses. So if you can't give the answer and the answer is enough, then I won't respond until after I finish my day. Or, obviously anybody on your phone whose name doesn't show up, you're not picking that up. So ideally, the people who are calling you, you have a sense, or there is a necessity, depending on who calls, during the time that I'm working, in order for me to pick up that call. If not, I do everything on doing my callback times and my return email times, and that's it.
This is interesting to me because I know everybody breaks up time a little bit differently, but I'm intrigued so it sounds like you have this callback period in your evenings where you handle, I guess, the bigger bulk or things that require multiple. Interesting.
Yeah.
Clearly it's been a success for you, but is this something you've been doing for a long time?
For a very long time. It's altered from company to company, but the foundation of it has always been the same. Blocking time and staying regimented to time, because ultimately someone's urgency may not be mine. And I don't need to give you 15 minutes for something that's urgent to you. That's, immaterial in the grand scheme of what needs to be accomplished. So I have to prioritize you, because if not, getting on the phone with you might take 15 minutes. That now I'm not spending 15 minutes on something that needs to be addressed.
Right.
During the process. So, and that's how you are able to manage multiple plan A's, right? And manage through the process of life and making sure you're moving everything forward. So there has to be sacrifices.
I love that. Managing your time, but you have that time for these bigger, I don't know, let's call them bigger priorities to tackle, or more long-winded, long-term priorities to tackle.
With all of this stuff, there's real-time activities that come in. But what happens is I judge what's the incoming based on the value. And so primary, there are people who stream straight to, priority emails, because that's where the priorities are. So if I'm just like everybody else, I'm not a robot, if I do take a look, I never confirmed man-to-man. That's important in that aspect. But that's not till 3 days from now. That's cool. We'll deal with that later. But since it's something coming that's going in the priority box, but even in the priority box, it might not be dealt with. And if I choose to deal with it, it's going to be later, because right now I'm shooting a video with my artist, Paris Gatlin, who's coming out. She's being released this year. So even in the span of everything that I'm dealing with, everything is not a priority. So knowing what the priorities are for the accomplishment, not just in the immediate, right, but for the long haul, the day, the week, the month of the year, and making sure you recalibrate the priorities so that they always, the true priority of what needs to be accomplished stays in top line.
I think these days there's just, you mentioned it earlier, you were kind of alluding to social media, and look, there's just so much information these days. There's so many things that can pull you away from that passion project, that passion pursuit, even your day-to-day, where you have to prioritize. But with
how can you plan to be successful if you can dedicate 30 minutes to swiping at any given time?
Well, yeah, exactly.
How does that happen? There's nothing else you could do. Right? And you wonder why, it's the man. The man is holding me back. He won't promote me. No, spend that extra 30 minutes doing something that you need to do. Be better at what you're doing, right? Stay focused, reprioritize, commit, have a plan of action. And, it's happened. I found myself once Jesus, I was like, what? Like it pulls you.
Yeah.
You swipe it and you just wake up. It's dark.
It's right. Right. The sun
What did
was
I
just
do
out.
all day?
Yeah. Right.
This
Right.
is done. Like, how do you lose your life doing that? But obviously, the big tech people who have created all of this, they've nuanced it for those to be trapped and drawn into. And then, as a quote, someone said, 10% of the people do 90% of the work. So the people who are doing the work, right, are always going to be on top because
Right.
they're needed.
Right.
Everybody else is just BSing, right?
Yeah.
Pretty much.
No, and that's why I think it's important, and that's why I wasn't going to let it go, because I feel that this is important. This is important, especially in our day and time, and you see so much of this fluff in social media, on the internet. You see all of this, just all of these masks, if you will, and these personas that are being portrayed, where a lot of that's not real, let's be honest, or a lot of that dedication and a lot of the realization of said dedication and effort is not accounted for. So, everyone reaches and thinks about the overnight success, but even those overnight successes are not overnight successes. Point A has to lead to point B and C. Sometimes you can jump a few letters, but there's still this path you have to take, and it's not linear, but it's effort, it's dedication. And it goes back to your acronym of IMPACT, which I think is beautiful. And I definitely want to dig into that. I know that's in the book. So I might have to get a sneak peek ahead of 2022. I don't know if I can wait that long. But
absolutely. I'll be back. You see, I'm going to hold you. I got you.
No, you're coming back.
That's a return visit.
Yeah. And with that, we'll leave that as a cliffhanger, because I can talk to you all day. I love your background. I love your story. I love your energy.
Thank
You're
you.
also a New Yorker.
Thank you.
So, we got that going.
You know how we do? We're not running from that, man.
All day, every day, baby.
The best city in the world.
Look, New York to the heart, but got love for all. I'm in LA, but New York, baby. So, look, we will do a part 2. We're going to do a part 2 when your book officially comes out. And again, would love to dig into all the things even more so. But before we go, I just wanted to ask, is there anything else you want to share in the meantime that you have coming up?
So I invested during the pandemic, co-founder of an app called Candid, Kandiid. You can find it in the App Store.
Okay.
And it's interesting app that allows people to do micropayments and monetize their content. So as opposed to, once again, being on social media, you have high quality content you just don't want to share, things that are important. You may want to charge. And what's the purpose on having a fan base if people can't have an opportunity to be thankful to you by contributing to you? And I think what we've done is an amazing job. A young Black entrepreneur who put this together, which is extremely exciting, just to see, one of us really go through the pains and hardship of, this tech space. And I learned so much myself. Like, I was a novice in the aspects on design and, dev and all of these things that you hear and talk about.
Those buzzwords,
to be in the grunt level of assembling and actually taking a product to market. As I said, we're in the App Store, and super excited about that, with a lot of great things that are coming with that, and the end of the year as well as rolling into 2020. And we're entering to that Black tech space, so I'm super, super excited about that. So that's probably the only thing that I haven't covered, and I'm super excited, man, that we made this work. Like, I'm thankful for you, for your platform and your voice, and that you're giving people like myself the opportunity to be heard, because everybody wants a big star. I mean, I'm not a big star. I'm just happy to be somebody who has a story that I feel that could impact others' lives and be a part of what's left for me in the back nine of my life. What's really important is that you're never too old to dream, and you're definitely never too old to win. So, we all run different races, and at the end, your accomplishments is everything that you've done to get to the finish line. So I'm super excited, and I'm thankful and grateful.
I love it. I love it. And with that, I am going to close. That was a beautiful ending, Benny. And we will pick this up with the part 2. Listen, thank you again for making time for this conversation and going man to man with me today. You are man to man verified. And yeah,
Mama, I made it.
You made it. That's the real trophy.
That's right.
Nah, but for real, from the bottom of my heart, thank you for being open, honest, transparent with us. More of these conversations are needed. So thank you again. I look forward to the part 2 with you. For everybody listening, you guys can learn a little bit more about Benny if we haven't covered it here on his website, bennypough.com. It's BENNYPOUGH.com. It will also be in the show notes. And make sure to tell another brother, king or queen, about man to man so we can keep these conversations going and keep building each other up. Benny, one last time, thank you, brother. Look forward to the conversation again. And all the Black Love fam listening, till next week, peace, love, and wellness. And that's a wrap, my brother.